So what is a pattern interrupt?
I know we made this word up, and it's really helped us and helped other people when we describe it. A pattern interrupt is literally an interruption to a subconscious pattern of yours. What's a subconscious pattern? That is something that's developed over your life. It is something that you do repeatedly that causes you to act a certain way within your reality.
Yeah, it's like we're always having sort of the same thoughts over and over. Most of our life ends up being subconscious or unconscious and repetitive. And so much of our life, even like from the day to day of literally doing the same things over and over, thinking the same thoughts over and over, craving the same things over and over, having the same desires, all that.
Yeah.
And then also there's like bigger patterns to patterns. Patterns are big and small, but like, so we have patterns of our life. So it could be like you're always meeting and dating the same type of person, getting into very similar relationships, or maybe your job ends up being a very similar thing will play out where like you'll get a new job, you'll be really excited, and then you'll get really bored of it, or your boss won't like you, or you won't get along with your coworkers, whatever. Like there's all these patterns that play out. And I feel like so many people tend to go through life not realizing that there are patterns, and they're just like, oh man, I have the worst luck. Every job I get plays out the exact same way, and then I have to quit and find a new job. And it's like, this is crazy. Not realizing that like the one thing that between these like 5 jobs, the one thing that was in common was them. And that they're going into it with the same idea and mindset and creating these patterns, or they have these patterns that are playing out in their life. So like you said, a pattern interrupt is anything that breaks up that pattern and brings it to our conscious mind, so that we have the opportunity to consciously change it.
Exactly. It's a disruption. It disrupts the pattern. And we're using it as a singular term here, pattern interrupt, but you need a series of pattern interrupts to rewire and reprogram that subconscious pattern, because if you've done it for decades upon decades, it's that strong. So the repetition of the disruption of it is going to help reprogram it.
Yeah.
An example that I use all the time is, it's just a simple example, but this is a pattern. When we lived in LA, 7 years into our living in an apartment, we moved our trash can.
Yep.
We moved our trash can after 7 years, and it took me like over 30 days to not put it like on the outside, and it was like now underneath the cabinet every time. I would just like drop everything over the counter, like where our trash bucket was. But I subconsciously, because I did it repetition after repetition after repetition, my brain like literally made a neural pathway to understand that that's where the trash goes. But I had to reprogram it because it wasn't in the same place anymore. It's an extremely simple example, but that's what we need.
Yeah. I think like the most obvious example ever of a pattern interrupt is an alarm clock.
Yeah.
Where it's like you're sleep, you're in this pattern of sleep, and then something goes off and knocks you out of that pattern.
Yeah.
And then it's also very easy to turn off your alarm clock and fall right back to sleep if you're not used to getting up at that time. So like you said, you need more than one pattern interrupt. So it's like, it wasn't enough to just like know where the trash barrel was. It would still walk over and go to throw something out and be like, oh, there's no, and then the pattern would be interrupted by the, oh, the trash isn't there anymore, and then walk back. And it's like, how many times can you almost throw something out before you have to walk over and throw the trash where it is now? It takes a little bit of work, but we tend to, with like more important patterns, get down on ourselves when we want to change a pattern and it doesn't just happen overnight.
Absolutely. And what I was going to say, why are we talking about this? Why is this important?
Right.
First thing is obviously becoming aware that everything in life is patterns. Everything from the macro scale of life patterns. I mean, we have like worldly patterns, nation, but like those things down to like the little thing, like I was saying with the trash basket. Becoming aware that these patterns dictate our lives subconsciously and unconsciously will help the patterns interrupt
Yeah.
becoming aware. But it's important to know that it's you have the ability to disrupt this, to interrupt the pattern, so that you can make necessary changes moving forward. Because once you choose consciously to do it a different way, that interrupt the pattern.
Mhm.
And it's like reinforcing yourself. Okay, I can do this. It might be really uncomfortable. It might be hard. Of course, think about the decades that it got you, these unconscious patterns got you to where you are, but it's all right. It just is going to take time to rewire and reprogram these patterns. So yeah, if you've been in really shitty jobs for 30 years, sucks. But like, wait a minute. Okay, you're now aware of it. Like, what is the common denominator to me? Same thing with relationships. Same thing with like your relationship to food. Like introducing new things. Dan used to hate like hummus and guacamole when we met, just
Mhm.
because like as a child he didn't eat that. And it was like you literally had to reteach your body, your brain, the patterns within you that like, okay, this is a different taste sensation. Like, let's try it out, and let's try it out more than once. Like, it's okay. If you don't, there's certain foods you don't like them, but I'm just trying to
Yeah.
give examples.
Yeah, they could be so. Is a good example of like these things can be really serious, or it can just be like, oh, I just want to be able to try more things without being turned off by it or like grossed out by it.
Yeah.
Food is such a powerful, I think, pattern. Like the way that we eat, people tend to eat like the same way for their whole life,
Mhm.
and they tend to get into very like repetitious cycles of eating. So if you're having a problem overeating or eating like bad, I don't like the term bad foods, but like foods that aren't great for you and aren't serving you, aren't nutritious, aren't something that you want to continue eating. But maybe like you come home every night, and when you sit on the couch and watch TV, you find yourself eating mindlessly. So if you want to consciously break that pattern, maybe it would be too hard, kind of like throwing the things out in the trash. If you're just like, okay, I'm going to sit on the couch, watch TV, and when I feel the urge to eat a bag of potato chips, I'm just not going to do it. That's going to be really hard if you've done it every day for years. But what if you do something different and like sit on the floor? And now you don't have the same like trigger response of like on the couch, I'm comfortable, I could really go for some potato chips. And then you start acting like on autopilot.
Mhm.
But you're sitting on the floor, and it's not going to be as comfortable as the couch, but you're also going to be conscious the whole time that you're watching TV that you're on the floor, and you're not going to take that next step and grab potato chips. So it's a way of like taking one more step back and like breaking the pattern and then becoming aware of the pattern, then not allowing the pattern to repeat.
Absolutely.
That's a helpful example, I think.
It's a good pattern interrupt. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like it's just a matter of like keep putting yourself in positions where you have to be conscious about your choices.
Yeah. Because your subconscious patterns keep you in the familiar known.
Mm.
And that is really comfortable, and you get settled in, but then it's like, it just is so unbelievably difficult to make changes the longer those subconscious patterns play out. So as long as you become aware and then know that an interruption is going to sever it, and once you keep on interrupting that pattern, eventually it's going to rewire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then just take advantage of in that moment when your pattern's been broken. You're in control. You're no longer on autopilot. Your pattern is no longer controlling the situation. You are. So that's the time to choose what you want to do, not what you've done in the past.